We're going to jump right into our first presenter. So we've got Scott Runyon with Backcountry Physical Therapy. So Scott will have 6 minutes to just share his story and journey, and then we'll have 20 minutes of Q&A afterwards. So Scott.
Awesome.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
All right, so like you said, my name is Scott Runyon. Thank you 1 million cups for having me today. I am a physical therapist. My company is Backcountry Physical Therapy. I think if you told me that my career was going to bring me to standing on a comedy stage at 9 a.m. on a Wednesday, I would have so many questions for you about what happened and where I'm at. So let me jump right into what brought me to where I'm at. Growing up, as long as I can remember, I always wanted to be in the medical field, and I just wanted to help people kind of the way most people want to get into the medical field. And so I started off as a pre-med major in 2007 at the University of Illinois.
Woo! ILL.
And so after some time in the pre-med area, I was like, you know what? This isn't the stuff I want to do. I'm not as interested in this stuff as I thought. I was more interested in human movement, and I really didn't want to start my career when I was 30. So I went the pre-PT route instead. So I ended up getting into PT school, and at that point I had spent my whole life in the state of Illinois. And if you've never been to Illinois, don't bother. It's flat, it's boring, the weather sucks, politics suck, we had 2 governors in a row go to jail. They tax the hell out of you. I had to get out. So when I was in school, I did one of my clinical rotations, which is basically an internship. You get to learn on the job while you're in school. And I did one in Bozeman, Montana. And that was kind of where my love affair with the Rocky Mountains started. If you've never been to Bozeman, it's an awesome town, lots to do. And I really got into the mountains, into hiking, and just into the whole outdoor scene out there. So then a year later I graduated, and I spent the next 2 years traveling. And by that I don't mean I was backpacking Europe or anything like that. Most people are familiar with travel nursing, but a lot of people don't know that PTs do the same thing. You can go and you can work for a few months at a time in a certain spot, certain setting, and then move on to the next place. So I did that for 2 years. And I got to go to a lot of cool places, mostly focusing on the mountains. So I went to Arizona, I was in the Carolinas and Appalachians, I got to go to Washington, Alaska. I got to live in some really cool places where I could continue to develop my love for hiking. And then in 2016, I got married, and my wife and I decided we wanted to move to Colorado. We just kind of picked a spot on a map, and Colorado Springs is where we ended up. And once I moved out here, worked for a little bit, I really was like, you know what, the healthcare system has a lot of problems. Insurance puts a lot of limitations on what you can do, on what patients can do. It's expensive, and there's something that something better that can be done to make people more proactive with their health, to not rely so much on someone else to take care of you. You can take care of yourself more so than waiting for a pill or for a surgery or for a doctor to diagnose you with something. So I knew that I wanted to branch out on my own and create my own way of doing things that was, as I see it, a little bit better than what is currently out there for most people. And while I was out here, I'd also developed a lot of new hobbies. I love to ski. I love to whitewater kayak. I love to rock climb. Basically anything you can think that people love to do in the Rocky Mountains, I want to go out and do it. If you want to try something new, I always want to try something new. When it comes to being able to use my body, athletics, that kind of thing. It's just so beautiful out here. It gives me an excuse to go out and camp and enjoy what we have here in Colorado. So as I was developing this new business, I thought to myself, what kind of clientele do I want to serve? Who is going to be the ideal person for me? And it's cliche, but you always hear people say, do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And I love thinking about being on the mountains. I love helping people get back to being out, doing what they love in the mountains. I love talking about the new gear that people want to buy. I love talking about what's the next adventure that people want to go on. And when you are a physical therapist, you spend a lot of time talking to people. You're sitting there with them. I'm there with them for an hour, and you really get to know people. And so those conversations are important. So I said, you know what? I want to have the kind of person in front of me that I can have a conversation that I'm just absolutely going to love. So I wanted to work with the mountain athletes. And so that's the route that I went. That's my niche. That's the people that I serve best. Is the people that love to do those things: hike, climb, ski. And that's what I've built my backcountry physical therapy business around.
Man, that niche that you chose, I know it's because you love doing it yourself, but there's probably a lot of clientele that comes out of the outdoors work and et cetera. So, how long have you been in business? Is it Scott?
Yes.
Yeah, how long have you been in business now and developing a niche? What do you see on the horizon for your PT business?
So I started putting things together about a year and a half ago, and I've really picked up momentum over the past year or so. The outdoor niche is definitely my primary target market. Whenever I'm creating educational material, exercise videos, blogs, things like that, I'm always geared towards this is going to make you a better skier, this is going to make you a better climber, it's going to keep you healthy while you're hiking, that kind of stuff. I've branched out a little bit to some other sports as well. My office that I work out of is in a large gym up on Vickers Drive called The Farm, and we've got MMA fighters and CrossFitters and volleyball players and all kinds of stuff in the same building. So I've kind of worked that into my business as well, but my primary love is with the mountain athletes. Yeah, you in the back.
Do you work with chiropractors? Like, do you guys can you guys collaborate?
Yeah, I do collaborate quite a bit with chiropractors. I'm in different networking groups, and I've met a lot of chiropractors in town, and we refer back and forth to each other, and we'll talk about the same problems that in healthcare that we all want to fix. There's some chiropractors or PTs or whoever who are kind of set in that old way of doing things, and I'm more in like the new way of doing things, and I kind of tend to surround myself with the ones that are more in line with kind of the new age way of thinking. But like, for example, I talked about where my office is at. We have a chiropractor that's right across the hall from me, and we kind of work together. We're putting together some wellness packages where they get a little bit of PT, they get a little bit of chiropractic, and some of the other businesses that are in this wellness center, so they can stay proactive with their health and not necessarily wait for something to go wrong before they get it fixed.
So you said you were disgruntled with medical and the insurance system. Are you cash pay or do you take insurance? How are you guys structured?
Yeah, I'm cash pay, which a lot of people don't understand when I first bring that up to them. Thank you. Yeah, a lot of people don't understand it because we're kind of stuck in this, I pay for medical insurance and I have to use it. Well, what a lot of people don't understand, because they don't dive deep into it, is that you have high deductibles, high copays. Most people do, not everyone. But most people have high copays, high deductibles. And then, even with all the limitations, the insurance company still says, we're going to give you 8 PT visits this year, something like that, something incredibly small. And they'll cut you off, and you don't get fully back to recovery in that short amount of time. I can get someone out of pain in 2 or 3 visits for, something like that. But there's always an underlying cause as to why you got hurt in the first place. And we want to fix that. Because if we don't fix that, you're going to get hurt again in 2, 3, 4 months. And then you're going to come back to me and say, well, why did I get hurt again? Well, you got cut off, we didn't get to fix the full problem. And that's what I aim to do more, is get down to what's actually causing it and not just be a Band-Aid. Yes, ma'am.
So how do you transition your clients from therapy back into regular life, but also make sure that they don't stop doing what they need to do to make sure that they don't fall back into the cycle?
So typically, I'm seeing my patients approximately weekly for a little bit, and I'm doing hands-on work with them, making sure that any movement restrictions are getting freed up with things that I can do, and then I'm showing them exercises to start working on at home, and I gradually ramp them up to something more challenging. And then what I do is I start to taper them off a little bit. So I might see them every other week, or maybe every 3 weeks or a month, depending on each person's individual needs. And so then we're kind of able to see, like, how compliant were you with what I was asking you to do over that time? How has that affected you? And what adjustments do we need to make? So it's kind of a gradual thing where they're able to, we're kind of test the waters a little bit, see how they're doing. And some people want to continue to work with me. Some people do. It's not necessarily what I want them to do. I want them to be independent, but some people, they fix whatever was wrong, and they're like, okay, I got a new goal I want to work on. I'm going to run a marathon, and I want someone to kind of coach me through that to make sure I don't get hurt. Okay, cool. Let's continue to work for a little bit to make sure that you're training in the most healthy and safe way.
So can I continue?
Sure.
So it sounds like you combine physical therapy with personal training as well. Is that?
A little bit, yeah. Yeah, I definitely wouldn't call myself a personal trainer, but I am trying to make sure that people are able to progress to where they are stronger individuals and meeting their goals. Yeah.
Small. Thanks.
What's been the biggest obstacle you've had to overcome relocating the business here? I mean, it's essentially almost starting over.
So I didn't start until I moved here.
Okay.
Yeah. I moved here 4 years ago, and I think in 2019 was when I formed the business. But I'm also new in town, so I've had to do.
What's the biggest struggle growing as a new guy?
Yeah. It's been doing a lot of networking and finding the right connections. I went to a lot of networking groups that I met people that just wanted me to do something for them. They didn't want to. It wasn't a mutual relationship, so I've had to definitely be picky and choosy about who I'm affiliating with, because I've been burned on a lot of relationships that didn't pan out as anything fruitful for me. So yeah.
So all the new people should ask you, where's the network?
Yes, sir.
There's a lot of modalities like yours that are coming into the medical field that are really pushing back against the old guard and incredible, devastating, jacked upness of the healthcare system that we have in America today. So what particularly does your modality add to the conversation and help people with, that we don't have to continue to go through the roller coaster of what we call medical care today?
Yeah, so as a physical therapist, what we kind of bill ourselves as is a doctor of movement. There's a lot of specialty doctors out there, whether it be kidney function, heart function, lung function. Physical therapists are focused on how does your musculoskeletal system fit together to create fluid and efficient movements that's going to keep you moving safely. And we move every day, right? At least you should be. You get up, you walk, you climb stairs, you're exercising, all that kind of stuff. So it really is helpful because it's such a proactive thing, right? Exercise is such a big part of what so many of us should be doing to stay healthy. And that is more like the personal trainer kind of field, but I want to make sure that people are doing it in the most efficient manner. So like if you say you're going to get into CrossFit, and you get into CrossFit or some similar type of exercise class, and you're not used to doing that, and then people start to get hurt shoulders or hurt backs or whatever it is, and then they say, oh, I hurt myself, doing whatever exercise, I'm going to quit. If I come in and I say, well, okay, let's hold up a minute, you don't have to quit. Let's fix a few things with how you're moving, and you can continue to lift weights, to run, to do whatever it is that you want to do for fitness. You're going to live a much healthier life and lifestyle. You're going to live longer. You're going to, avoid comorbidities, diabetes, heart disease, things like that. And I think that's where we really step in as kind of that coach to make sure that people aren't getting hurt when they're trying to live a healthier life. Yeah.
Hey, Lindsay. Oh, sorry, Randy. So I'd love to hear one of your success stories. So take us from a patient from, when you start working with them to where they are today.
Okay. Let's see. Those are always good, and I always have several I want to pick from.
So many.
I know, there is.
Great.
There is. I mean, just speaking more in generalities, it's very rewarding when someone comes in with 5, 10 years of pain. And I point out, okay, this is off just a little bit, your pelvis is off, you've got some weakness here, and this is what's causing your pain. And in one visit, they're like, oh, I feel 50% better. And as we continue to work through that, they all of a sudden are like, man, I haven't done some of this stuff in 5 years, and now I'm able to do it again. And it's just incredibly rewarding to make that change for people.
What has been one of your own personal successes in building your business out here?
I think that a lot of the relationships that I've made have been very successful for me. Because it's about being part of the community, right? And being able to network with other businesses in town and make close relationships, even friendships with different people around here that are also operating their own business has been really cool and really rewarding. Yeah. Robert.
So, Colorado Springs, in a sense, like a lot of folks tend to move here, right? And they get stuck and they never leave. So what advice would you give to business owners that, maybe this is their first year here, they're trying to start a business, similar to your story, when they're first starting out, what advice would you give?
I think the mistake that I made was not getting out and networking soon enough. I spent too much time getting caught up in trying to get my social media stuff set up and some of the back end stuff set up in my business, rather than right away jumping out and making relationships. Because if no one knows you personally, no one's ever going to recommend you. So I would say, yeah, get out and meet whatever you can get into to start meeting people. Yeah. Yeah.
So you said you have a new age way of thinking. Does that mean that you do kinesio taping and dry needling?
I do. I love dry needling. And it's not something you learn in PT school. And I took the level 1 course about 2 years ago, and it's the best continuing education I've ever taken for my career. Yeah. It's amazing the results you can get very quickly with dry needling. I use a little bit of kinesio tape, not a ton, because I find dry needling to be a little bit more effective for some of the things I want to do.
Okay, what is dry needling?
Good question. So basically, it's the same needles that acupuncturists use, but in a different way. I compare it to a calculator, right? A physicist and an accountant are both going to use a calculator, but they're using them for very different purposes. So we're taking the same tool, this thin little needle, and I am going for trigger points, kind of tight points in muscle tissue. And then I'm often connecting a little bit of electric current on that needle as well, and it causes the muscle to kind of fire and twitch, and it resets how that muscle is interacting with the nerve, and it just calms down. It's a really cool thing, and yeah, like I said, it's been one of the best things that I've adopted in my physical therapy career.
What do you recommend dry needling for?
Usually, if someone has a lot of tension, and it could be in anywhere, up in your shoulders or in your legs and your low back, and it could be for a relatively acute new injury, or it could be for a chronic long-term injury as well. Yeah. Yeah.
Would you recommend it for tennis elbow?
I'm sorry?
Would you recommend it for tennis elbow?
Tennis elbow. Yeah, I use it for tennis elbow quite a bit.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Does it hurt?
You're speaking out of turn.
That's like a bunch. That was awesome. Good job.
And rather than being a sharp pain, it's kind of an icky, crampy sensation. Yes, ma'am.
Would you, building on that, if someone, hypothetically speaking, had really tight calves and just wanted to get dry needling, would you take them on a one-off, or do you only take clients who are going to stick with you for a period of time?
So I have done like some specials, like at my gym, I'll do like an inexpensive dry needling session just to kind of let people see what I do. But it's also a piece of the puzzle. It's not a fix. Because there are probably some movement problems that people are having that led to the tight calf in the first place. So I want to get that to loosen things up so you can move a little better. And then I want to teach you how to use that movement properly so that it doesn't come back. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, real quick, we got time for one more question, and then it'll be our super secret
That was
special
fast.
question.
So you've been in business, only, a year or two now. What do you want the business to look like in, say, 5 years? How's that look for you?
So right now it's just me. I'm doing everything, scheduling, follow-up, ads, everything. So eventually, and probably this year, I'm going to start bringing on some staff, some front office staff, hopefully another therapist. And I want it to be where eventually I'm only treating patients because I love it. I want to hire on some therapists to do the bulk of the treatment for me, and then I can treat 10, 12 patients a week, whatever I want to fit into my schedule, and then I can be more of the visionary and kind of managing, overseeing things, and just kind of I think what most people want, you want it to more run itself rather than you having to be in it day to day. Yeah.
So we get one on that.
Very good. All right, we have our super secret question over here. Secret question.
What can we as a Colorado Springs community do to support you?
Like I said, I am big into networking, meeting other business owners in town. So that is the biggest thing that I want, is to meet more people. I'm generally looking to meet people in the fitness industry, whether they be gym owners, usually more like class-based local gyms, not the big box gyms. So owners or managers of those gyms, personal trainers. I also want to meet people in outdoor-based businesses, whether that be a climbing company or people renting ski gear, things like that, and other healthcare professionals too. And like I said, for healthcare professionals, I'm usually looking for someone who's more in line with my way of thinking, because the other professionals are probably not going to understand why I'm doing what I'm doing. So those are the kind of people that I am looking for. So if anyone knows of anyone that fits any of those descriptions, I would love to talk to you and give their contact information.
Awesome. Wonderful.
And this is the super valuable 1 million cups presenter.
Oh, thank you.
That's fine.